All right, let me go ahead and pull up PowerPoint. Okay, so just create a couple of slides based on a particular topic I wanted to, research based on the links. The main thing is our function components that I wanted to kind of cover. So I wanted to start with, of course, the basics. What is React? React is a JavaScript library. It's developed by Facebook, and it's really focused on the UI, the user interface, and it's used to build these single page applications. So you think of single page application, you think of, you think back to our shopping cart app where we had a HTML file for the cart itself, HTML file for the men's page, HTML file for the women's page, and so forth. With React, all of those are combined in a single HTML file, but they're built into components, which I'll be discussing the function version of those components. And to the last point here, it does allow you to create those reusable components. So that's the main topic we'll cover today. And then a couple of days ago, I sent a video of just how to get started with installing React on your computer. So I just incorporated that in the slide, and I'll share the slide as well, or the PowerPoint as well later. But going through this video will just get you to have React installed on your computer. And in order to set up React, you'll need Node.js, and you'll need, when we install Node.js, it includes a package manager called npm. And after you install Node.js, you'll want to open your terminal and run npx create React app along with the name of your app, and that will create the entire React package. And so when you think of a React package, you think of, you don't just think HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Those files are included, but it includes a bunch of other files. So it actually takes some time to create that package. So I'll be doing some demonstrating and showing in Visual Studio Code. I was going to skip the create React package portion of it, or create React app portion of it, just because of how long it takes. I didn't want to spend too much time on it. But then the npm start is how you'll actually launch the web server. So it doesn't just launch a HTML file. If you were to go to, let's say, open the HTML file in your browser, you won't actually see your React app. You actually have to run a command called npm start within the terminal, and then that'll launch the app. Now that I will display today. In fact, let me close the app here and do that really quick. So I'll be going back and forth. Close terminal, new terminal. And you do have to make sure that you are in your actual React app folder. So right now I'm in a generic folder called no project. So I'll cd to my React demo folder. So now I know I'm in the right folder. Then I'll do npm start. And this launches the web server. The good thing about it being a web server is that it updates live. So as you make changes and click save, it'll update for you. No more refreshing the HTML page or relaunching it. So let me see if I can move this over. Actually, I'll do it like that. Okay. Kind of get a side by side here. So I'm going to toggle back to the presentation really quick, just so I can stay on track. And so we're looking at the commands. Again, npx create React app. I already went through that command to create this app, and it created this entire package here of files that are needed with the React library. And the npm start is what I just executed, and that launches the server within the browser, the app server. And so our next slide I wanted to go through are the functional components. That's really the main thing I want to cover here. So functional components, the way I understand it, is that they're basically functions that return HTML. So when you think about the traditional web application, you think HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you think everything is programmed in the index.html file. But in React, it's a little different. So I'll go ahead and open the index.html file. And as you see, there's very little HTML here. It's actually just one div with the root ID. And then that root ID ties back to the React package creates a index.js file. So that root ID is actually referenced here in the root in the index.js file here. And from here, what I found was, there's a root variable that creates the React DOM, and that is used to actually create this root element that's referenced. The other key piece of this is the render. So render is actually what displays everything on the page at the root file level. So if you, okay, let's close that really quick. Without the render, nothing displays on the page, and I'll just demonstrate that really quick here by commenting out this whole part here and doing a quick save. And as you see, it updates live. So after I save it, a few seconds later, nothing is shown on the page. So the index.js has the root render property within the DOM or method within the React DOM, and that's how everything gets displayed on the page. So go ahead and put it back, save, and we'll see our page here. So let me just go back to this presentation just so I can stay on track here. So each component is typically its own JavaScript file, and this is so that it can become easier to manage. So as I said, when we went through the cart.js, or when we went through our shopping cart app as a whole, we had an HTML file for the cart, women's section, men's section, and so forth. Instead, these would be inside of components, which are JS files. So I created, well, by default, there's an app.js that's created, and I created the comp.js. But let me just dive into and start with the app.js here. Each component must be exported and imported in order to be used. So right now, if you look at this app.js file, it has a function called app. And this is our functional component right here, basically. This is the structure of it. It's a function. It can be a regular or arrow function, but I think arrow functions are probably preferred. And it returns, as you see, it returns in parentheses. That's you can actually return it without the parentheses, but it's better to return it with, just so you can keep things organized and it's easier to read, because you'll be returning a lot of HTML here typically. And it returns the, in this case, it's going to return a div, a header, a paragraph, and let me go back to the app so we can kind of do it side by side. So what you see at the top here, where it says this is our shopping component, you see the actual paragraph here. This is our shopping component that's coming from here. And then the image of the actual shopping cart that I took a screenshot of just to kind of give a visual. And then it has this comp2. Now, comp2 is another component that I had to import. But I want to finish here first. So one thing I want to say is when you create a component, you have to both export and import that component in order for them to work together. So it's kind of like when you think about link, if we were using an index.html, you use a script tag to make sure all of your JavaScript files are linked together. In this case, you'll use the import function to make sure your components are linked together. It's kind of how I see it. And you know what, I'm probably moving a little fast, so I want to stop for questions for a second if anybody has any.
Yeah,
How did you style?
I have a question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead first, Sam.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what is the function of that file, the manifest.json file?
Is that manifest JSON?
Yeah, and the robots.txt.
Yeah. So those Terrence, I'll jump in real quick. So manifest
Okay.
that file helps you to convert this to like a phone app. Like it's something called a progressive web app. So PWA. If you look at PWA, it's going to tell you that you need a manifest JS file. And what this is doing, you see all of these brackets, like you see you see that array of objects where it says icons. Those are the icons that's going to display on your phone, your tablet, or in like your computer screen, or however big. You see that it has like a size there also, a size field. Whatever size that is, that's going to fit to your device or whatever. So you need this, you need whenever you convert this to a phone app, you need this file because it's going to read this file every time it's opened up in your on your computer or on your phone or wherever the app is. So that's what that's for. And obviously there's other fields in here as well, but like most of it is for progressive web apps. We're not going to go over that in this class, but it's something to like to know about. If you go to the robots.txt file, so robots.txt, what this does is it's also there for the progressive web app. Now, whenever you go to like on with every React app, you can go into dev tools and see if your app is compatible for like a phone app or whatever. And the robots is basically I think this helps like store like information about your computer. Like it uses this file. Like don't like quote me on this, but it's something similar to what I'm about to say. It uses this file to have like something run through your app, so to speak, like something to go and like actually scan your code. And I believe like some metadata is probably saved in this file as well, but it has something to do with the progressive web apps. And that whole definition could have been wrong about the robots.txt, but I know for sure that's tied to progressive web apps. But yeah, not something that you have to worry about in this class, but good question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Terrence. You can. Oh wait, thanks.
Oh, wait, there was one more, I believe.
Yeah. I think Jay.
Was that you, Jabez?
I did have a question. How did you style your app, your page?
So
So how did
the
you use your CSS
all of this,
or introduce CSS? I mean,
yeah. So by default it had this styling, but you bring up something I was going to actually bring up in the presentation too. Is that it still comes from CSS, but one thing I want to point out, and I had learned along the way, is that you can declare class attributes in React, but instead of using the word class, you actually have to use the word class name in camel case, because the word class is actually reserved in React because they're used to create React classes. So the two would be confused. So when you're in React, you still have classes that come from CSS, but those classes are set using class phrase or class name like this instead of just class when you're putting them together in React here.
If you
so
can,
you're not. No, I was gonna ask it. So you're not using like the div IDs and stuff like that, and then when you do the styling, are you using a separate CSS page or?
Yeah. So where is it at? There, the app.css is where the styling is coming from. And this is all generic, I should say too. The only thing I really did was add some extra text and remove like the generic React logo when you first install React, just for today. But the styling is coming from app.css, and they're coming in the form of classes, but those class names are just declared with the class name attribute.
Thanks.
So you can set and add your own classes, of course, to that app, but it still pulls from there. Yeah. And so, so when you kind of touch right on what I was going to point out in the slide here as well. And that is that the class attributes has to be set using class name instead of class. And then when you create a component, so right now this is the default one when you create the React app. And so I decided to create an additional one and nest it inside of this original component here under app. So in order to do that, you got to do two things. So I'm going to go to the comp2, short for component 2 app. So one thing you got to do is import React from React. So it imports all of the React packages from React in order to use it. So, you know, I just put that, looks like it's best, or from what I read, it's best practice to put that at the top of the file. And then I just created another arrow function. And in this one, I just kind of created the arrow function without the return keyword, since all we're doing is just returning, you know, HTML. So I took away the brackets and the return keyword and just had a div, which actually I want to mention that too. Everything has to be wrapped in a div in order for it to display on the page. And I'm going to kind of demonstrate that here. Let me move this out of the way. So if I were to come in here and just comment out the div for a second and save the file, I'll get an error because the components that you display, the HTML, has to be wrapped in a div. So I have two tags. I have the paragraph and the image, and they do have to be wrapped inside of a div. If not, you'll get this error. So I'll go ahead and undo here and save, bring it back. And then I just put a message, of course, this is the cart component, just to show you that they're separate. But there's two parts to this. So first part is the creating the function, the arrow function, which returns the HTML, and then you want to export it. So I exported it as the default component. So I export default comp2. If I had multiple components, which are multiple functions that return HTML, I would have to export a default, and then I could export everything else separately. In this case, we just have one. So I'm just going to do export default comp2, which is the name of our component. So that's required. And then if we go here to app.js, I had to then import that component as well in order for it to be used inside of my app.js. And so when you actually call everything from the first component, it's done. Well, actually, there's one thing I want to mention is that the name of the components, those functions, have to begin with a capital letter. Actually, I found that out the hard way. Probably spent maybe an hour trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And it was because the name of it did not begin with a capital letter. And so it would not work. It did not create it as an actual component. So if we go in here, you'll want to make sure it begins with a capital letter. And after you import it or export it from your component page here, and you import it into your app page here, then you can actually create an HTML tag with it. So I just created it with the exact app name. And if I comment it out here and save, I only see the first component and not the second one. So all the HTML all the HTML from the component 2 won't display unless I have it set as an HTML tag within the return of my app here. So if I undo, save, bring it back, that's where this is coming from. So I have them both on the same page here, but what you could potentially do with this, of course, is you could have the cart page display after you click add to cart or click the shopping cart button. I'm just displaying them to show you that they're separate components, meaning that not just a separate div or it can be a whole bunch of divs in its own functionality, right? This app returns JavaScript, but it's still a function. So you can still set variables within here and, call them if statements, anything you can do in a regular function, but in the end, it still has to return the visual pieces of your component, which are the HTML. And we go back to the slide. Yeah.
Can I return two divs? So like in your app, you have the div with the class name app. Now under that div, on the same level as that div, could I return like another div if I wanted to create that second component in one JavaScript file and one JS file? So like you got the div class name app on line 9. Like if I wanted to create another div, let's say I go to the end of line 23, I return and then create a whole nother div tag, and then try to create another component within that div and return it as well. Could I do that?
You could, but if I'm not mistaken, you still need to have one master div or container to have everything inside. Is that right, Isaiah?
Yeah, yeah. You can only return one HTML component, like one HTML element. Now that HTML element can have as many things inside of it, but it has to be one. So yeah, that's right. It don't have to be a div either.
So one container.
Yeah, it can
Yeah.
be whatever HTML tag. You can even use something called fragments, and I don't even think that it was covered in those sections. But like, it don't have to be. It can be anything. Just one HTML element though. So yeah.
Okay, I have a question on the class name. Is it a must that you have to use class name throughout? Could we use like IDs, like in the normal HTML?
Yeah.
No, that's
Go ahead.
okay. You can. I honestly, I didn't research that, but yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. The only thing that
So
changed
you
was,
can use IDs.
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, thanks for clearing that up because I didn't actually test that out, to be honest. So I just they put an emphasis on class name while I was doing the research, so I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. So yep, we got it has to begin with a capital letter. Once you create a component, got to import it or export it in the file you created it in, and then import it in order for it to be used. And at the end of it all, it's all displayed under the root here. And I could have just added my component too. If I import my component too, I could have displayed it here. But in this example, I just nested my component too within my first component. And that also displays under, so renders from the index.js file here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to at least try to tackle because it's a lot to React. So just wanted to at least get a start and discuss functional components. I do have one other slide I wanted to pull up, but I just want to make sure, see if anybody got any other questions before I did that on function components. All right, so I'll just go ahead to the last slide, and this slide just kind of summarizes why I even volunteered to do this. And it's this quote that just says, "To teach is to learn twice." And for me, teaching it back, it forced me to like throw myself in front of the bus so that if I don't go ahead and actually volunteer, there's a likely chance that maybe I didn't look at the slides at all, or maybe I reviewed the links he sent, but I didn't really go into it in any depth. So that's why I did it. The other reason is when you're teaching it back, you're learning as you teach. So you're really literally learning twice as fast as you're teaching it back because you're, getting more of an understanding. If you can't explain it, or if you can't teach it or explain it, then you probably don't know it. So that's kind of why I volunteered to, present today and try to challenge myself to tackle some of this topic.
Perfect.
Good job, Terrence.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You did a really good job actually. Like, if I didn't know that you didn't know React prior to this, I wouldn't have like thought, because like even some of the small stuff you went over is like the exact stuff that it was on point. Like it was a lot of it that was like on point. There was only two things that stood out to me that wasn't exactly accurate, but it wasn't even a big deal because for the most part, for 99% of what you were saying, like all of it was like true or whatever. So yeah, definitely good job on that. You I can tell you really learned it. So yeah, that's definitely a big thing. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'll send the link to these slides too, just as a reference for the install and everything I covered.
Yeah, it's this you presenting as going to set yourself up to like really what's it called get through this React stuff like nothing basically, because you pretty much know it. There's some like best practices that I'm gonna teach y'all though, so that you can avoid certain things. And I didn't know about the capital letter thing either. I automatically make it capital because it's by convention. I didn't know it didn't work with capital letters, so that's interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't turning green when I had it in lowercase. And I'm like, I know I imported, I know I exported because I watched the same YouTube video like 100 times to make sure I got it right. I'm like, what's missing? And then one of the videos I found said you got to have it in a capital to start with a capital letter.
Yeah, yeah, that's different. Let me see. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back over what you went over actually, and I'm gonna drop a few like nuggets in there too, like just like best practices, stuff like that. If anything, this gives y'all a chance to even see it like done again, and I'm gonna do it from the beginning. I'm just gonna start from the very beginning. So I'm gonna share my screen. Um, Definitely stop me if y'all if y'all have a question. Um, hold on, let me put this here. All right, so let me close this chat. I'm just gonna start completely from scratch. What y'all all want to do is y'all want to download Node.js. Download Node, and that link should be in W3 School also. So I definitely want to download Node.js to your computer. You just literally just hit the download button and it downloads. I have an Apple, so I just click this and it's downloads for me. Obviously, I'm not going to do that because it's already on my computer. And the reason you download Node.js is because Node.js is a package manager. A package manager helps gather other people's code, pieces of code, and put it together for you in like a specific kind of way. With React, you don't start off with a blank screen, like a blank folder. Like you start off with a whole bunch of code that somebody else wrote. That and the person that wrote React is, I believe, Facebook is behind React. They're the ones that made it or whatever, that created it. So a lot of the code comes from them, and I shouldn't say a lot. Some of the code comes from them, but a lot of the code comes from people like regular people like us. Like y'all can literally go through and write something with React and then have people use it. But we're gonna get more into that a little bit later. Either way, you need Node.js. You need that on your computer. Once you have Node.js, you can open up your terminal and you can use certain commands once you download Node.js. Now, if I run node here -v, this tells me the version of Node.js I have on my computer. The version I have is 14. I actually have 2 versions on my computer, but like I don't want to go into like why I have that. When y'all download, it's gonna be version 16. It should be 16 or whatever. Actually, let me just switch my version. Need to install. It's fine. You do know -v and you see your version. What also comes with this is like npm, like the command npm and the command npx, and those commands you use to download code to your computer. So one thing y'all should know is just this npx one, and there's a difference between the two. I don't want to go into like what the difference is because I don't want to overload y'all with stuff. Actually, first let me see to my computer, go to my desktop. I'm on my desktop right now. Let's say I'm just gonna create like a program folder, and I do recommend y'all have like a program folder or something like that on your computer, just to put all your code in one spot. So I'm in a program folder. You see it here. In order to create a React app after you download Node.js is with this command. First write npx, then you do create -react-app, and then the name of your app. I'm opening up this program folder real quick so you can see like the folder drop in there. I'm gonna name the app let's say first React app, like that. I hit and obviously you don't want it to be spaces in there. Keep it all as one. I just did it in camel case. Okay. All right, cool. So can I create project this because npm naming restrictions. So the naming restriction is, let me see, name can no longer contain capital letters. Okay, I can't do capital letters. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just do, let's say, hyphens like that. So it's
Yeah, I saw that in one of the videos. They said no capital letters or no spaces in the folder, or for the app name, I should say.
Yeah, it looks like yeah, definitely like a new thing that they do. But either way, I think this should work. We just testing this out. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, here we go. All right, cool. So it created it for us. Let's React that. Yeah, and be wary, like don't ever use those spaces. Like try, if you can avoid using spaces in like your in just coding in general, like don't use spaces. There are times when you can use spaces, but like a lot of times those spaces break things. So yeah. So right now, what it's doing is basically down npm, like node package manager, the thing that I said to download. Right now, that is downloading stuff from online, like it's downloading stuff from the from like the browser. So you definitely have to have internet connection whenever you run this command. Something to keep in mind. Um, so right now it's installing React Dyn, React scripts, and CRA template. I'm not sure what CRA template is, but React is basically um, what this is it's like the engine of React as a framework. It has all of the different rules inside of it. Like it's kind of hard to explain without going into too much detail, but I'm like, just know that I'm going to revisit this a little bit later on if I remember. React DOM is a way for the engine, which is React, to interact with the DOM, with the document object model, like the CSS that we normally see. Like React DOM gives you that ability, and because and all right, so that's that, and I'm gonna get back to React DOM in a minute too. React scripts allow you to run the server on your computer. Um, so that's what that does for us. And CRA template, I'm not sure what that is, to be honest. I have no sure say it's in this with CRA template. Maybe it's a version of React script. I'm not sure. But either way, that's what these things do. This is the engine. This thing, so the code inside of this is like the main engine of React. The code inside of React DOM helps you interact with the HTML DOM, and React script help you run your app. And this stuff becomes significant when you start to learn about different like flavors of React, like different types of ways you can use React, and then you really start to realize, okay, where this stuff is coming from. But that's that, and it's still loading. Yeah. So while this loads, remember when Terrence was showing you that one HTML component, um, it was like the root component. What React does is it uses that component and injects something called a virtual DOM, like a React's version of the DOM, or like the document object model. Like all the HTML and CSS on the screen is React's version. That's really just JavaScript you're seeing on the screen, but is JavaScript converted to like some version of the actual DOM. Um, which is why when Terrence was showing y'all the like even like class and like class name, like there's and even using JavaScript within HTML, like the reason you're able to do that is because React has a virtual DOM, like it has its own version of the DOM where you can put your JavaScript inside of your HTML, and you can even put your CSS inside of there too. Um, but yeah, we're gonna see more of that. So this whole thing finished. Um, it's giving us some directions here. Like it's saying, okay, if you want to start your app, you run this npm start. But before we run that, I'm gonna open this up in VS Code. First, I gotta cd into this folder, and I'm just gonna open it up in VS Code. From here on, I'm only try to tell y'all things that's like absolutely relevant. Like I don't want to give y'all too much information because I want it to be like focused in on like one thing or whatever, just so we can just, this is what I need. Like let's filter out all of the other stuff. So everything is inside of app.js. Like literally your whole app comes from this folder. Let me open up the terminal real quick. If you're in VS Code and you open this up in the terminal, obviously you should be within this folder, the folder that has your React stuff. Even if I do a PWD, it's there. So I'm in that folder, and to start it, I have to run npm start. Let me so I'm running npm start, and this is going to start my React app. I zoomed in too much. Zoom out. Okay. So right now, what it's doing is it's looking at all of the code inside of app.js, and it's like putting it into like a server. Would you like to run another? Oh, I already have an app running on that port. Let me stop sharing for 2 seconds. Like I have an app already running. Let me stop this. This is for, okay, all right, cool. I'm gonna share my screen again. So let me come out of this. In order to get out of this, I just press Control C. But or you can just trash it right here and open up a new one. But I just ran npm start again. It's basically looking to open this app up in localhost 3000. That is the server on your computer that is trying to open it up at. So starting server, I don't want to start it there. It's literally just going to pick a browser and do it for you. I'm going to open up this one and then navigate to localhost 3000. I have to clear my cache too, because I just had something open up in this here is clear cache. Let me stop sharing. I need to clear my cache. I had a server opened up in this on this port already, so it's probably going to try to read from that. Any questions while I'm trying to clear my cache?
Yeah, I have a question on React.
Which one y'all want to go? Go ahead, Samuel. What's your?
Oh no, go ahead, Sam. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if React, building on React would help, like the website you are building, will it be the same on all browsers?
So it's just as much the same if you was to just do it in HTML and CSS. So yeah, would it be the same in all browsers? Actually, I'm honestly not sure. I feel like it should, but like something's telling me that it won't. Like there may be like some different like fonts that's being used that's different. But yeah, I'm not sure on that one actually. But yeah, I can what's called do a quick. I don't know if somebody can do a quick search on that just to see and let us know. But yeah. So Terrence, what was your question?
Or just kind of like what I had mentioned the other day about the packages. So I heard people talking about Yarn versus npm, but npm, the Node package manager, comes with Node when you install Node. So that's just the primary one, right? That's the one we want to stick with. No issues with that.
Right. Yeah, I would just use it only because I'm familiar with it. Like I would just use that in this class, to be honest. Because Yarn, when you it's almost like a special community with that uses Yarn. It's like either you use Yarn or you use npm.
Okay.
Like it's like and like even some of the ways you write some of the stuff is different, and I don't really know the conversions between the two. So yeah, I would definitely just do npm. So I'm glad you went that route when you did it. I remember me about it. But yeah. So I started the React app. This is the React app that came up. You can see right here is on localhost 3000. This is the server that's on my computer. This is nothing but an image that's spinning. Like that's all this really is. Not even a video. It's just like an HTML element that's spinning. And you can even see the code for that when you go to the CSS. And this is not as important, but I just want to show like where it comes from. Like it comes from this here, and we didn't even learn how to even use these type of things yet. You don't really need to, but like I'm gonna skip that because it's not really relevant. I'm about to start deleting stuff off the page. So right now you can see that says edit source app whatever. I'm gonna delete that, and obviously whenever I delete it, hit save, come back over here. Should it refreshes? Okay, I didn't refresh that, but it just refreshed on its own. And let me actually put these next to each other. So actually, no, this. Let me look at this and see if it looks. Yeah, this is fine. So I'll put it next to each other so we can see like the update in real time. I'm just literally just gonna delete everything in here. Like I don't need this stuff. I'm gonna delete that. I'm gonna delete everything in here. I don't need any of this stuff. This is just all like stuff that it came with to show you that like examples of how to use it. So all of that is deleted. I'm gonna delete. What else I'm deleting? I'm delete this logo. We don't need this. This was the logo that was spinning, by the way. It's SVG. So I'm delete this. And obviously SVGs has like code inside of it. If you haven't like seen that before, but it has code in there. So I deleted that, right? Something that I want you to know. So it's telling me we have a compile error. It says error in source app.js, and it says line 4 right here. So if we go to let me see, if we go to line 4, like it's airing out here for some odd reason, and it's really wait, hold on. It says cannot. Oh, here we go. Cannot resolve this right here. Logo.svg. This was the thing I literally just deleted. So now that I deleted it, it can't find it. It can't like bring it into the file. And whenever you want to bring something into the file, you use this import keyword. This is JavaScript. This is not even like React specific. Don't think of like a lot of this stuff is not React specific. A lot of stuff is just JavaScript. But this brings in stuff into your app. And the reason we're even able to use import is because we're using Node.js, and Node.js comes with extra JavaScript that the regular JavaScript don't come with. But I'm gonna delete this. Hit save, and that error went away, obviously, because now we're not trying to bring in something that doesn't exist. So but let me actually go through these pages one by one. I'm gonna just teach from here. So this first one is basically telling you that it's so inside of just like with Terrence I showed us. Here we go. So inside of index.js, this is where the code is that tells React where to put the stuff at. And right now we're doing document.get element by ID. We're putting everything inside of the root, the thing with a root as the ID, and that's inside of the public folder inside index.html. I'm gonna delete some of this stuff. This is all commented out. We don't need that. We don't need this. We'll just delete that just so we can clear this up. Don't need any of this stuff. Don't need this. So literally we don't even need this here. The only thing that's here is this. I'm gonna hit save. The only thing that's inside the body is one div. That's literally it. The only thing that's inside of here. So it's gonna reference this, and then it's gonna place the React app in between these in between like the div, like it'll go in here. Like everything will go inside of that, just like that. So that's how that works. And it might actually replace this whole thing. Actually, it may just replace it instead of going inside of it. We'll see whenever we start adding stuff. Either way, so let me go through. I'm only going to show you the relevant stuff. So it's React intro. See, React history, blah, blah, blah. Get started into ES6 rendering HTML, JSX. I'm just gonna go through, like, I see the titles on there. It looked like somebody's trying to like draw on the screen or whatever. But it is all good. What's it called? With React, right? Everything works in components. Remember how we did when we was doing HTML? We like, okay, we see a box here. That box is a div. Okay, a box here, a section here, a section there. We got a footer. We got a header. Like all of those things go into separate divs. With React, you want to think about React in the same way. Everything is broken down into small components. So, literally, this app folder is going to have nothing but components inside of it. Now, obviously, you can put just regular HTML inside of there, and it shows up here. We can put that in the p tag. We can, like, pretty much do whatever we did before with what's it called, with HTML. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna see some examples of how to put components in here. We're gonna do some simple stuff. So the first piece of advice for best practices is whenever you create a component in React, you want to actually put a folder. You want to create a folder inside of the source folder, and you want to name it components. This is the first practice that you're going to see done by professionals. They create a components folder, and some of their file structure might be a little bit different, but for the most part, like this is how you're going to see it. So I'm gonna create a component folder here, right? And inside of this, I'm gonna create another folder. Like this folder is gonna represent, let's see, new folder. This folder is gonna represent a component, and I'm just gonna name this blue component .js. Now I'm just gonna name it blue.js. Actually, you don't even have to say component. So one thing to know is that blue is capitalized here. Anytime you create components, you always want to capitalize the first letter of it. So actually, this folder is just going to be named blue. My bad. So this is blue. Now inside of this, I'm gonna create another folder for a component. I'm gonna name it orange. You're gonna see why I'm naming these colors in a minute. And I'm gonna create another one, another folder, and I'll name it like green or whatever. So I have 3 folders for components here. Inside of blue, I'm going to create a JavaScript file, blue.js. Like I said, it's capitalized. I'm also going to create another file inside of here, blue.css. And actually, we're going to use something called we're going to use something called Sass. Now, we're not using CSS files. Sass is CSS, is built on top of CSS, but it's you can use it to be like more like you can use variables inside of Sass file. So we using Sass from now on, and you can see the file extension SCSS. That's what we're going to use from now on, because this is what you're going to see when you get to the job. So I'm gonna do something similar for, actually, I'm gonna just start building out the blue component before I build out the rest of them. Actually, yeah, let me just close everything and open up blue. Double click this to keep that open. So inside of every React component, what we want to do is we want to import React. Import React from React. It auto-completed for me. The reason we want to import React is actually, I don't even know if we even have to do this anymore. But like the reason we import React, just for now, and I'm gonna test this later. The reason we have to do it is because when we import this imports code into this file. Remember how we had those script tags in HTML? It literally drops all of the code from React into here, and that this is actually located inside of this node modules folder. This node modules folder has a lot of stuff inside of there. You can even go all the way down to React, and that's where all of this code is coming from. Here we go, React. all of this code is being dropped into this file when we use this import statement here. That's what that does. I'm gonna close this up because we don't even need to go through that. But this tells React that we can use React like things. And one of the React things that we can use is like returning HTML from a function. You can't do that with regular JavaScript. So I'm gonna create a variable named blue. This is capitalized. Just an arrow function. That's all that is. I'm gonna just return, and every time I return something, I'm gonna put it inside of these parentheses. And what I'm gonna return is a div, and this div is just gonna say blue here. Also, whenever I create that component, I have to make it accessible outside of the file. So just like you import something, import means you bring something in, just like import, export. Export means you want to send something out. So what I want to send out by default is blue, the function blue, right? So now that I exported this out, I'm gonna go to app.js, and in here, I'm going to import blue, just like this, from, I'm gonna put a colon, and I'm gonna start going through the tree of folders, just like when we CD. So dot, so I want to go inside of the component folder, dot slash components, auto completes for me, slash blue, and then slash blue here. The folder name is blue, the file name is blue.js. But with React, you don't have to put the .js. It automatically knows what you're trying to do. So you can just do blue by itself like that. So again, the folder component, the folder components, the folder blue here, and this last blue represents the file blue.js. We don't have to put the JS there. I'm gonna replace this.
Is that only for JS? Could you do the same thing with the CSS, or is it only for JS where you can exclude the extension?
Only for JS. Good question. It's only for JS.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. One moment. Let me stop sharing for 2 seconds. I'm gonna reshare. All right, cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put blue into my React component, and you use it exactly like you use HTML tags. So blue, you can do this just like that. You can also do it a different way, but I want you to see the blue is here. Let me zoom in so we can see this. So blue is right there, right? We can do it like this, or we can use a self-closing HTML tag. Just like you see with like image tags, this is how you want to do it. You want to make it self-closing. 9 times out of 10. Now there's a difference between there's a benefit you can get with the other version, but we're not going to go over that yet in this class. But for now, I just want y'all to self-close these tags, and we can see blue showed up there. And obviously, you know, if I go here and I say, if I add like more text here and hit save, it updates on the other side, because everything from this file is being dropped into app.js. This is its own component. So I'm gonna just put that back, and now I'm gonna build out the green, and actually let me finish building out blue. So in the blue, right, what I want to do is I just want to create a blue box, and that's why I named it blue. I want to create a blue box, and I want to center the text blue. I'm gonna just make that lowercase because it just looks better. So what I want to do is I want to start styling this. Now I can style this directly in this file, but first I'm gonna show you how to style it in CSS, in Sass, the Sass file. So I'm gonna just get his ID. Actually, I'm gonna give it a class name just so we get used to seeing it. I'm gonna say class name of let's say box, and I'm also gonna give it an ID of blue, and I'll just do it like that. I'm gonna use both of these in a minute, but first I'm gonna use the ID. I'm gonna go inside of the I'm going inside of the SAS file, right? And it's written just like CSS, but we're gonna start to see little differences, and I think you're gonna like how this looks or whatever. But I'm gonna give it a background color of blue. I'm gonna hit save. Now nothing happens right now. And the reason nothing happens, like, can somebody guess like why it didn't change to blue? Just a guess.
We have
So you gotta, and we import it.
Right. Exactly.
There you go.
It didn't update because it didn't know about it. You got to be explicit with React. You have to say what you want to use. Every time you use a CSS file, you just import it. You just say blue dot SCSS. Like, notice we did it different. We did import this from this. With CSS, you just do import and you just put the path there so that it knows about the CSS. Hold on. What's going on? There's a problem with maybe it's I think I gotta do dot slash. Yeah. Dot put on. Let me zoom out so I can see what's going on.
Oh, can you talk about how to debug
This is
in React a little bit? Like using
um
the React debugger?
yeah. Well, right now it's gonna take too long to I can do it if I got time towards the end. I'll definitely go through that. Let's see. Can I find SCSS? Um Interesting. Destination SCSS. Actually, I'm not sure what's going on here, and I don't want to try to debug it. It's because we're using SAS and not CSS.
Oh, wait, is it because you are not going into the components folder specifically? So it'll be dot slash components slash blue CS dot SCSS. Is that possibly it?
No, that's a good guess though. So everything's relative to where you're currently at. So
Okay.
yeah, because it's in the same folder. You just do dot slash here. Um, Let me see if I can quickly get a answer for this because I want to show y'all
Is,
this SAS.
is there an import SAS thing? Like, does that have to be imported? Like React has to be imported?
No, you should be able to
No.
just use it. I think this
Okay.
is Note SAS has been depreciated now. What? Okay. Let me see something. It's out of the pack. My app may not be set up to use it. Let's see. It's depreciated. Blah. Not fine. Oh, is that what it said? I think that is what it said. Okay. Yeah, I have to actually install it. I'm not even going to go through these steps. I don't want to put too much. I don't want to like give y'all too much to like think about. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna convert this back to a CSS file. And I'm just gonna get rid of the S. Now it's a CSS file. And
Question. So what's the difference between CSS and SAS? SCSS.
great. So SAS is a better version of CSS. Like it has added functionality. You can do everything in CSS with SAS except for you can do more stuff with SAS. You can add variables in SAS. You can be more specific with which HTML element you're trying to target with SAS. Like it's a really good like version of CSS, I should say. Um, I'm gonna show y'all. I'm gonna show y'all next week, like if not at the end of class. But either way, so I import. We're seeing the color show up now, basically. The other thing that I had, let me close this. The other thing that I did was I gave this a class name of box. One thing that y'all should know about React is anytime you import CSS, this CSS is also available in all of the other components. So if I style or any CSS file is available to all of the other CSS component, all of the other like React components. Like I had a class name of box, and what's that? Yeah, class name of box, and I'm all the way inside of app.css. If I give this a height of let's say 200 pixels, let's say it changes over on this side. This is one thing y'all should look out for, like that, and this is why I wanted to use Sass, because Sass, there's techniques you can use in Sass to avoid having this reflect in the other file. And like I said, at the end, I'm gonna try to bring it in just so we can see it. But either way, like this works over here. So but I'm gonna take this out of here, and I'm really gonna put that inside of index.css, because this is where like all of the common CSS should go. And obviously it's going to work also. So all these CSS files are connected, but everything specific to Blue, I want to put it inside of here just so I have it organized. Let me see if there's questions in the chat. Okay, cool. Java compiler run my application. Yeah, so React is what runs that. Like there's stuff, the code that they brought in, like that's what's like running it. Not sure exactly which one it is, but it's running from it have it set up so that it does all of that for you. But yeah, so all right, so we're in Blue. Okay, cool. So now let me fill out the code for the rest of the stuff. And actually what I'm gonna do is I want to make this look a little cleaner, a little better. So everything that has a class box, I'm gonna display flex. All this stuff is exactly the same. Justify content, center, and I'm going to let me see, font weight. Give it a font weight of, let's say, 800. Hit save. So justify or align items center also. Cool, perfect. So that's Blue, and let me do green and orange. It's literally the exact same process. Green.js, and actually let me test something out. I'm going to delete this because I don't think we need that anymore. So I hit save. It still works. So we don't need to import React. And it's probably I think that came with like an update. You don't need to do that anymore. But before you had to do it. I'm not sure if they updated it on the W3 Schools website. But don't import React into these components. And if you do, it's fine. Like it's not going to break anything. So yeah. So let me so green dot CSS. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna, just to speed this up, I'm just gonna copy this and paste it over here and change some of the stuff. This is green. CSS. I'm gonna give this ID of green, and put green here, and also change the name to green. Okay, cool. So that's that, and I'm gonna do the same thing with orange. Let's file orange.css. Okay, and orange.js. It's taking a long time to load, so did not add it. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. All right. So this is orange.js. Let me just paste in this stuff, and I'm just going to change all this stuff to orange. Let me just do a find and replace. That's probably easier. So change blue to orange. Place all, and I'm gonna change. So orange. Let me do that and this. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna update the CSS here. Let me do this and open this up. Change this to green, obviously, and change this to green. Do the same thing for orange. Change this to orange and change this to orange. Okay, cool. So now that we have, and this just a test chart, now that we have these green and orange things, why is it not showing on the screen?
Got it. Ooh, got to import it into the app.js. Oh boy.
Right, right. Got to import it here. Got to actually use it. So import. We have orange. Let's do green first, actually. Green from green. It auto completed for me. I like that. And let me see something. I want to test something out because I think it might auto complete for you if you just write it in HTML. So I put green here. I'm gonna hit save. Green should show up there, and I'm gonna type orange. I'm gonna hit enter, and it imported it for me. You saw it drop in at the top. I just had to close it, so it dropped in for me. So that works. Okay, cool. So I have three components: blue, green, orange. Obviously, I want to shift the spaces. I want to change spaces. I'm able to do that. Because they're just literally things that stack, components stacked right on top of each other. So I'm gonna put it back how I had it. Blue, green, orange. All right, cool. Any questions up until now?
Yeah, I have a question on.
Yeah.
So each component that you made, is it a must that it should have a CSS file for each component? Then you could make a separate index.css file for the general styling.
You said should each component have its own CSS file, like we have, like here?
Yeah, like blue has its own CSS, green has its own CSS,
Yeah,
orange has its own CSS.
right. But these CSS work on other ones. Like they interact with each other. Like if I went here, remember all these things have the class of box. If I did this and say box background color, if I do box background
Give it a
color,
max height and width.
right? Say it again. Height and width.
Oh, I was gonna say just give them a height and width.
Height of 20 pixels instead. I'm just gonna put the important flag because I know the ID is gonna overwrite. It's gonna overwrite classes. Hold on. So yeah, so I overwrote everything within orange CSS. But yeah, they have their own to keep it organized, but it doesn't mean that they can't interact with each other. CSS, which is something that we're going to avoid doing when we put Sass in here, or we're going to try to avoid doing it anyway, because it can still mess up. Any other questions? All right, cool. Let me just clean this up. And I think, let me see. HTML render, JSX. That's literally everything that we cover in those things there. What I'm gonna do is since it's 11:09, we'll take a break. I know we don't normally take breaks anymore. I feel like it's something I wanted to implement, but like so we'll take a break and we'll come back at 11:20, and then we'll continue with React. I'll teach y'all like more stuff past like what I asked y'all to read. So yeah. And I'm gonna get a quick bite to eat myself. So yeah, I'm gonna go off camera. Cool. So we'll start in like another minute to give y'all some time to get back there, whatever. See, there's something in the chat. Okay, cool. All right, we'll get started. All right, so far we learned like the basics of React. Like from here, y'all can say that y'all know React. Only because like y'all you're able to like add components on there onto the screen, and you see where like the CSS is coming from. You see how these components are even like stacked on top of each other. Like from now, I would y'all can like comfortably say that y'all know React. Now, how well y'all know React is different, obviously, because y'all just started learning it. So we're gonna start getting into like more about like what React really is. So React, the reason it's popular and the reason companies use it is because React is like really fast. Whenever you let's say you're on a website and you click like a page or whatever, and like it takes you to the next page. The older way of doing things is that page had to load up, like it has to literally load. But with React, when you click that like navigation to another page, let's say the about page or whatever, it loads literally right away for you. Or like there's a small latency, but it's not something that you're gonna notice. Um, so it's really fast. Other thing about React is that whenever let's say I wanted to change this to like the color here, and actually let me show y'all. Let me show y'all in the browser once you see it. This actually happened. So I'm gonna open this up, right? This has our let me close this. This has our HTML inside of here. We can see blue, green, and orange here. Like we can like somewhat see it, right? If I'm going to green, right? I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna change it to green with an S. I want you to pay attention to the dev tools. I'm gonna hit save, right? When I hit save, y'all saw this green flash right here. I'm gonna
Yeah.
delete this and I'm gonna save it again, just whoever didn't see it. That it flashed. So um the things the things that flash on the screen are the things that's being re-rendered on the page. The only thing that flashed was green and let me see, something else flashed. Head. The head flashed also. So the head flashed. I'm not sure why that flashed, to be honest, but maybe it always re-renders this. But green was the only thing that flashed on the screen. And that's because what we're looking at here in the dev tools, well, actually in the dev tools, this is the actual DOM. But what we're looking at on the screen is the virtual DOM. The virtual DOM, like React, when something changes on the screen, instead of re-rendering the whole page, it literally re-renders exactly what it needs to re-render. And that shortens the amount of time that a page takes to load. For example, like if you had a navigation bar, and that navigation bar is on every single page of your app, why do we have to re-render that navigation bar every time we go to another page? It's a complete waste of resources on your computer, and it takes longer to load. With React, it calculates what changed on the screen. And with that calculation, it goes into the actual DOM of the HTML page and changes just that one thing. And just having that on your page makes it really fast. And that's one of the reasons why React is like so popular.
And does that have to do with state? Is that the whole topic of state?
Right. And that's I'm glad you picked up on that. And that's what I was actually transitioning into, state. So each component has its own state. Now, state is like basically a description of how to is a description of the component in a way. There's like, for example, let's say we had like a light switch. If the light is turned on, the state is on. The light switch is off, the state of the light switch is off. Like, it describes how the component is at that point in time. That's what state is. I'm sure there's another much better definition somewhere. But state can be changed two different ways. Like, it can be and every time the state of a component changes, like I removed like this S, remove the S and it flashes. The state of this changes. Anytime the state of it change, React goes in and updates the component exactly what needs to be updated. And we're gonna see how all of this stuff works. So the first piece of state that we're going to learn about is props. It's called props. Props are pieces of are variables that you pass into your component to be used. So just like when we had like just like regular functions, if you have a parameter, let's say text here. When I'm using this green component in app.js, I can pass in text, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. I can pass in text as a parameter, and I could use it inside of the actual HTML. First, I'm gonna show you how to pass text to the green component. I'm gonna go to app.js here, and go down to the green component here, and I'm literally just going to add it as an attribute, text, and I'll just say equals green. That's what it equals. I'm gonna do green. I'm gonna actually do all caps, green, like that, right? Now over here inside of green.js, since this variable name is the exact same name as this attribute name, that variable gets the value that's given right here. So this equals that uppercase green. And I'm sorry, there's one step that I skipped. It's one step that I skipped. Each component actually gets something called props. Like this is common within all of the components or whatever. And I want to show y'all by like doing a console log. I'm a console log what props is. Console log props. So whenever this React component re-renders, it's going to console log that. I want you to notice how I'm using JavaScript in here on top of the return statement. You can use JavaScript anywhere in here. So just like a regular function. Let me open up the console. Let me zoom out a little. Okay, cool. So I go here to the console. I can see it printed out here. It printed out a few different times. Let me just refresh this completely from scratch. So it printed out twice here. There's technically it printed out once. This second render, this second thing is printed out on React's side, but don't worry about that for now. So this is what props is. Props is literally an object This object contains all of the props that you passed into the component. If I go here and I delete this, I'm gonna just delete it. One thing I want you to know is like when I hit save, none of this stuff is gonna go away. I'm hit save. None of this stuff is gonna refresh. It literally just prints it out again. And that goes to my first point. React is really fast. The page was not refreshed, it was updated. Nothing got removed from here. So so props printed out right here. It's an empty object. It's because I didn't pass in anything. But when I put this stuff back and hit save, there's no refresh. Like it updated and then it reran the component because it saw that its state changed. The like what the current state of that component changed. So it re-rendered green. And when it re-rendered green, it went through and read through this function just as normal from top to bottom. It got here to line 5, it logged this out, and then it got to the return, and then it updated what was on the screen, exactly what needs to be changed. That's how that works. So now that we see, any questions on that before I move on?
So that in the console there, I said it, I see green twice, green on JS, and then the second green, that VM, is that like virtual machine, like for the virtual DOM?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it stands for virtual machine or anything like that, but it's something that React on its side is like logging as well. There's a way to get rid of these logs. I gotta do some research on how to get rid of those, but for now we just gonna keep it there.
And then for the arrow functions, do you always, well, I guess if it's just returning something, then you don't have to do the whole thing with the brackets and stuff. But if you are doing other things within your component, I guess to change its state or any other JavaScript, you would want to keep the brackets and return keyword.
Yeah, and that I'm glad you brought that up actually. Remember how arrow functions is you don't need a return keyword if you're returning one thing. You can do the exact same thing here. You don't even need that. You're just returning one thing, and this is wrapped because it looks a little weird because it's wrapped around, but this works just as fine. We're just returning one thing from the from here, and I'm not even sure if we even need these parentheses there. I think we can just do that. Yeah, and it still works because the arrow function, and obviously those same rules apply. You don't need that either. So yeah, but let me put this back.
And then
go ahead. What were you saying?
And the parentheses stuff is just for readability, I guess. The parentheses around everything that's returned, since you're returning so much HTML.
Exactly. Just readability. Exactly. So that's that. So yeah, I'm logging green. Okay, cool. So we can see that props is actually an object. Like props, it is equal to an object, and that object has text inside of it, text of green, just like we see in the console. That's what this is. This is how you can look at it. So we see all on the same line. That's what this is. So what I want to do is I want to use text. Now I can do that 2 different ways. Now I'm just console log props dot text, just like we use this is just an object. That's all it is, and that print out green. You can see it here, prints out green. Now I can either do it like that, or I can destructure it, and I'm going to destructure it because that is how we're gonna see React most of the time. It's the same thing. I'm just taking out text from props, and I'm just literally just putting it on another line. We can leave it like that, or we can have it the way I just had it, and I like it like this, to be honest. Either way, however you want to do it is fine. But I'll delete that, and I'm gonna delete this, and then do a console log of text. I get the same thing. So green here, green here. I'm gonna clear this console so that we can see. I'm gonna just hit save one more time so that we can see nothing changed, so it didn't re-render. That's the funny part. So I'm gonna hit save with that colon in there, and it prints it out. Now the way we use this stuff in React, the JavaScript in React, inside of the HTML, every time you use JavaScript, you want to put curly brackets. So curly brackets, and I'm just going to put text inside of that. So if I hit save, you can see it changed to text. Now it's all caps, just like we had it. I can do anything inside of these curly brackets. I can do 1 + 1. I can do so 2 showed up here. So green 2. I can do, was it like 4 × 8 or whatever? Like should be 32. So 232. Like all that stuff stacked next to each other. I can put all this stuff inside of paragraphs to get a better separation. And that's probably better. So paragraph here as well. And you can see them. Why didn't it go to the next line? That is interesting. That is interesting. It was supposed to drop down to the next line. Oh wait, we got display flex. That's why we did a display flex. That's why I did that. Let me get rid of this. If I get rid of that, we're gonna see they're on different lines. So flexbox, put them all on the same line. Let me actually update that actually in CSS here. So I'll just do flex direction column. Okay, cool. So so that's that. This is how you pass state into different components. So I'm gonna do the same thing with blue and with orange. With blue, I'm just gonna do text blue, and with orange, I'll just do text orange. Save, and I'm gonna put the same code inside of. Actually, I'll just write it out just so we can like see it. Each of these get props, so I'm just going to put props here so we have access to that. And then I'm going to start destructuring the text out of props. And then I'm going to add this to the HTML with these curly brackets. And this should change. I'm going to do the same thing with the orange component. Props. Let's destructure text out, and let's put this inside of the HTML. It should change. So that changed. Perfect. All right, cool. So now we're able to put state inside of here. And obviously, if the state changes, I'm gonna go to blue. And I'm gonna go here. Wait, I'm going to app.js, and I'm going to pass just B instead of blue. We look at this. This div flashed because the div was the only thing that changed, and now it updated to just B by itself. Like this concept of like one thing flashing or one thing updating on the screen is something that I want y'all to really like understand, because when you start to debug React apps, sometimes you get weird things happen in React, and it's like you really got to sit and think to yourself, like, why is this happening in my app? Like which component is updating? And if this component is updating, like, is it passing it the correct information? Like, for example, this says blue here. If I just put anything, I'm like, okay, like this component was supposed to say blue. Like you would literally go here, you say, okay, like this was supposed to say blue. Okay, I can see that it was passed in as props. So what rendered this? I'm gonna go to app.js. Okay, app.js rendered it. Okay, here's a text, and here is where that text blue came from. It's like playing detective almost. And sometimes sometimes your components. Another reason to know like about these flashes and like which component updates is like sometimes your component can run like really slow, and like you stuck wondering like, why is this thing taking so long to load? And sometimes it takes a long time to load because more than just what you expect it to like flash on the screen, so to speak, or update it. And it's like there's techniques that you can use to optimize your app to make it faster, um, so that only one specific thing updates at a time. What time is it? 11:40. Okay, so that is props. Any questions on props before I
And
move?
so that text is just like text is just a name you gave it. You could have gave text any name and it still would have been passed in. Is that right?
Right. I'm gonna change this to like just T by itself. If I do that, nothing shows on the screen because
Right.
I never passed in T. And yeah, we gonna see more examples of this too. But yeah, we can name whatever we want.
Okay.
I'm gonna put this on different lines because we're about to start passing in more props. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. Sometimes y'all gonna see it organized like this so that it's more readable. I'm gonna pass in let me see, a color as well. And I remember doing this when I when I taught this before in the other bootcamp before. So it's very similar. So I'm passing the color here. And like I said, these are just variable names. We can name this whatever we want. Orange, right? So I'm gonna go back over here. Now this actually has another property called color. And with color, what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna delete this. I don't want that to get the background color anymore. I want this background color to come from this color right here, from the thing I passed in. What I passed in was the string of blue. So this is the string of blue inside of app.js. That's what this is. If I do a console log, we're gonna see that it says blue there. And obviously the other components. Let me go to the console real quick. Okay. That. Okay, I'm gonna hit save here, and we're gonna see blue print out, the string blue. I want the color to come from this prop. So a way I can do that is by styling directly inside of this, inside of the HTML. The way I style components in HTML is I add a style attribute. This style attribute is going to take some JavaScript inside of there. Anytime we write JavaScript, we always put these curly brackets, whether it's on here or it's down here. Since we know we're about to put some JavaScript, this auto-completed for me. This is going to be equal to some JavaScript. And what I want that to be equal to is like these styles here. And styles is going to be an object. The object is going to take some CSS properties. Background color, and give me a second. I'm styles with an S. I'm gonna put styles in here, and I'm going to explain like how this works. So normally we write CSS inside of the CSS file. When we write the CSS here, this is called inline CSS. And we can do this in regular HTML as well. I'm not sure how much we went over that in regular HTML because it's not good practice. In React, you see it more often because we're able to update the styles inside of here dynamically. Like I can literally go in here and I can run a set timeout. Let me set timeout. And I can say after actually no, I don't want to I'm about to, that's going too far. I don't want to go that far. Let's just say I'm putting the styles inside of this object. One thing to know, I use camel case here. In regular CSS, that looks different. It has a dash right there. Background dash color. Anytime you see these dashes, you just you get rid of the dash and you use camel case. That's how you got to do it in React. So background color, like that, camel case equals to the color that you passed in. And this is just an object, key value pairs. So we pass this JavaScript object inside of these curly brackets here. And remember, these curly brackets is only here because we know that we're about to put some JavaScript inside of there. And the JavaScript we're putting inside of there is this object. I want y'all to like, that's why I'm like repeating it so y'all can like know where this is coming from. Now, y'all may see this look a little, actually, any questions before I move on? Okay, cool. Y'all may see this look a little bit different. We can put this inside of a variable and then put the variable in here. Or we can directly put this JavaScript inside there. We can just directly drop that object right in there like that. And that's just as fine. And it looks weird now because we have two sets of curly brackets. But all that is just, we're just putting an object inside of this style attribute. That's all we're doing. And this is the way I'm going to do it actually, because I want y'all to see it the more complicated way of seeing it, because this is probably how some people are gonna write it. And like honestly, the reason they write it like this is because it's easier to write. It's less. You didn't have to define a variable before you used it. You can just directly drop it in there. Why define a variable prior to it if you can just drop it directly in there? So yeah, we're lazy as coders and we want to do as least as possible. So I gave it a color like that. Now I'm gonna give it some more styles. Maybe I'll give it the actual color of the text. Remember, that's just regular color. And I'll give this a color of white. I'm using this hash right here. Now I could have just used white by itself, but I also want y'all to see those different, but that's not white. I also want y'all to see these different like versions of colors like that we already been using inside of CSS. I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because like I'm showing you that you can put multiple styles in here. I really want this to come from props, text color. I want to pass in some text color and I want to use that here, text color. Obviously, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to do the default, which is black. This is black, believe it or not. It just looks like it's blue or like a dark blue, but it's just going to do the default because we didn't pass in anything. This is undefined right now. If I do a console log of text color, it's just going to say undefined. And that's because we didn't pass it in. So what we're going to do, let me delete this real quick. We're going to pass in text color from app. So that was blue, right? So text color is now, let's say green. Let's just say, let's give it a green text color. Now it's green. Let's give it orange actually, so I can stand out a little bit more orange. With all of this stuff, you start to see like the power of JavaScript, of React. Like we're able to update we're able to like add these props and have these things update. Like we could have actually we're actually about to refactor this so I can show you how like another like how more of like power like you can have so to speak with React. Any questions on what I just did before I start to refactor this? Okay, so remember in JavaScript, we got this concept of do not repeat yourself. Like let's try not to repeat ourselves. These components look exactly the same. The HTML inside of those are exactly the same stuff, exactly the same. Like the structure is the same. So we don't want to have three components like this. We don't want to have blue, green, orange. Why have that when we can just have one? And if we have one, we can pass in different props to that one component and have it look exactly the same as it looks on the screen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another component, color, and inside of color, I'm just gonna say color.js. and I'm gonna add a CSS file in here too. Color.css. Inside of that, I'm literally just gonna copy what I have here and just put all that inside of color. And I'm gonna start replacing everything with actually no, let's not do this one. I think blue got more stuff inside of it. So I want everything to look like this. So we'll paste all of that in, we close this out, and I'm gonna start changing some of these things. Change this all the color. So color here, color CSS, we want to export color. Yeah, I'm hit save. So now this component does exactly what the blue component does, and we can also like translate it to the rest of them here. So I'm going to import color. Actually, I'm not even going to import color. I'm gonna let React do it for me. I'm gonna delete this blue. Actually, yeah. Let me start writing color here. Color here. I'm gonna hit enter. It imports it for me, and then I'm gonna close it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start adding props in here. So I'm going to first let me just get rid of, so this is color right here. Obviously we didn't give it any props, so it's not showing anything. But I'm going to delete blue from here and hit save. Blue should go away, and I'm just going to pass all of this to color instead, and it looks exactly the same. Now I'm gonna do the exact same thing with green. I'm just going to change this to color, and with orange, I'm gonna change this to use the color component instead. And I'm gonna hit save, and let's see, and the same thing shows on the screen. Like I'm gonna delete these from here so you can know like we're not using these anymore. I'm gonna hit save. And even if I'm gonna just change some of this text so you can see it update. Blue should now be lowercase. Green should now be lowercase. Now orange is lowercase. We can see all of it's coming from the color component. So with React, you want to think in components. You want to try to make these components as reusable as possible. You can even like, yeah, you want to make this as reusable as possible. And what's it call it? And that's how we're gonna build our apps. I'm gonna delete blue, green, and orange because we don't need those anymore. I'm not even using them. Move that to the trash. Let's trash this one. And let's trash this one to delete. Cool. We just got color in there. That's it. Questions on this?
So that's so when you change it to color, it's the color div just repeated with different properties.
Right. We're able to like add different stuff. I'm gonna put a text color here. This was the green one, so I'm gonna just say white. Actually, I'm gonna say blue here. Why not? And so yeah, so now the orange one, I'm gonna do a color. Actually, this is like not good on the eyes. Say gray. And this one changed to blue. Let me just change this to black. I like orange and black together. Or I can give it that hash 000. That's the same as black. And gray is like a version of like I'm just gonna do BBB for a version of gray. Okay. Orange, I don't know the hex color for that one. But yeah, we're able to update them directly from here just by changing the props.
Does React, because it's all named color, is that no problem because it's all named the same thing?
This year, yeah, and that's something good to point out too. Like normally we don't want to name things the same. Like if we had different variables with the same name, it would kind of clash. But yeah, you can use the components as much as you want. You're literally what this is literally doing is like, since color is a function, you're just calling this every time. That's how you can think about it. You're just calling color, something like this. I don't think this actually even worked, but like that's like calling the function with like the different colors of like orange, like whatever, like the text color or whatever. That is the equivalent of what we're doing here. So yep, use those as much as you want. All right, cool. So this is all I wanted to go over today. Well, as far as we got today, anyway. I'm going to paste in more links from W3 School a little later today, or probably after this class actually, and then we can like get started on that stuff. So yeah, let me stop the recording.